Okay? Let's begin. We are going to do the following. I see that very few of you have read the whole act, and even those who have read the first act have problems in answering the question. That's why I gave you the questions in advance so that you prepare them at home, isn't it? Okay? Those of you who try to answer the question got a much better knowledge of what is going on, because the action of the play is very complex. It's very compressed, isn't it? Lots of things happen very quickly. So you have to be able to read carefully and answer the questions. So one of the questions of the 8 questions that refer to the first act, 2 of them have already been mentioned, but they have not been discussed in detail. We are going to discuss questions about Act 1 and 2 in detail next class. But just as a kind of survey of what happens in the first act, we know that the witches are together and they make 3 prophecies in relation to Macbeth. But they are not there just to make prophecies about Macbeth. They are also doing their witchcraft, isn't it? As they go around their cauldron and make all sorts of weird ingredients and so on, okay, they are thinking of the people who have offended her, who have not been nice to them and so on, and they cast spells. Eles jogam aquela mágica sobre as pessoas, isn't it? So that's why I want you to be able to answer in detail, isn't it? Because they do not limit themselves to the prophecies. They have more banal, quotidian things to do also, isn't it? Okay? So read those passages. And in relation to predictions, they do not prophesy only in relation to Macbeth. They also say something to Banquo, isn't it? What do they tell Banquo?
He shall not be king but father.
Very good. They say that he will not be king, but he will beget kings, isn't it? So his children will be kings, isn't it? Okay? So this is very important because this affects Macbeth, isn't it? Okay? So if Banquo's children are going to be kings, what is going to happen to my children? They are not going to be kings, isn't it? Okay? So the whole mechanism of what is coming next appears in Macbeth's mind. We discussed the battles that are lost and won, that emphasize the paradoxical quality of the prophecies, but also show that Scotland is going through a very harsh moment, isn't it? With enemies within and without, outside, isn't it? Internal and external enemies. But then we know that soldiers come to Macbeth and Banquo, and they say that Duncan wants to see him, to thank him, because Macbeth specifically, but also Banquo, they have been very noble warriors, isn't it? Very brave soldiers. So the king wants to see them in order to thank them from the feats that they performed in battle. Okay? And why is this important? Because remember that we defined the tragic hero as a man who is not a murderer, who is not a base-like person from the very beginning. And this is important to show us that Macbeth starts the play as a noble general, isn't it? A brave man, a man who fights for his country, for his king, and so on. Okay? So he starts from this position, and then we are going to see how he changes throughout the play. Okay? So Duncan wants to see them, to thank them, to award the title of Glamis, and then later on the title of Thane of Cawdor. So they get to Duncan, and Duncan has been described throughout the play by Macbeth himself as a good king. A king who is interested in his people, a noble person, isn't it? A gentle person. There are lots of very positive adjectives that are used in reference to Duncan. I want you to pay attention to, because this is going to make the crime even more heinous, isn't it? Even more savage when Macbeth commits the crime. Okay? But then Duncan is not able to see evil in Macbeth, isn't it? Okay? So he has a very interesting sentence that we have to pay attention to. A sentence that is here in question number 3. What does Duncan refer to in saying, what he has lost, noble Macbeth has won? What did Macbeth won? And who is the person who lost? The Thane of Cawdor, isn't it? So the Thane of Cawdor lost his title, is going to lose his life, and Macbeth has won the title of Thane of Cawdor. Okay? So you see that a very simple sentence has to be understood, isn't it? What one has lost, the other has won. And then we have the witches again, isn't it? When they vanish from the heath after the prophecies, okay? What decision does Macbeth reach about becoming king? This is very important, okay? So what is his decision in this first act? Does he decide, I'm going to kill the king? Does he decide, I'm going to wait to see what happens? Does he decide, I'm going to invite Duncan to my castle and then I'm going to kill him? What does Macbeth decide to do, isn't it, when the witches leave the heath and he is about to go on with his life? Read the sentence, read the line. Okay, read the passage. You have to be able to identify the passage. Come on. Huh?
After they vanished, or after he
after the, look at the question. When the witches have vanished from the heath, what decision does Macbeth reach about becoming king?
Stay, you imperfect speakers, tell me more. By Sinel's death, I know I am Thane of Glamis, but how of Cawdor? The Thane of Cawdor lives, a prosperous gentleman, and to be king stands not within the prospect of relief, no more than to be Cawdor. Say from hence you old strange inhabitants, or while upon this blessed heath you stalk our way with such prophetic greeting, speak, I charge you.
And what does happen? Yes, because you see, when you said he is addressing the witches are still there, isn't it? What happens next? What happens next?